Hello, let me explain to you a bit about the Camino. The couple of things you need to know when you are planning your Camino. I will cover a bit about the routes, a bit about the terrain and the weather to help you make a decision when you want to go on the Camino. So first thing, the Camino de Santiago is not a single journey, but a network of roads reaching Santiago de Compostela in the northwest of Spain. As it is a network of routes, people chose different ways depending on where they started from. The people from the south of Spain would use the Via de la Plata, or the people from Portugal would have used the Portuguese way, obviously. But the most famous route would be the French way, starting in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port to Santiago. This is traveled by more than 75% of pilgrims every year. It is the most famous because all of the people from Europe in medieval time would have bottleneck in this town of Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port. It was also the route described in the Codex Calixtinus in the 12th century, the first ever guidebook written, which was describing the French way by a French monk, hence the name. So here is the basics about the Camino. Now, Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port to Santiago is about 800 kilometers. So you would cover that in about 30-35 days. It is a long journey. We also have the northern way, 400 kilometers, the original way, about 200 kilometers, Via de la Plata, 1000 kilometers, 600 kilometers for the Portuguese way, 90 kilometers for the Finisterre, 110 kilometers for the English way, and about 500-600 kilometers for the Puy route. So how do you choose which route to walk or to cycle? The first thing that you have to ask yourself is how long you want to go for, and if in your journey you want to reach Santiago. This will be very important in your choice. If you want to go for a week and you want to reach Santiago in your first journey, you would start around Santiago, circa 100 kilometers from it. It's quite logical, but it's just something that you need to keep in mind. If you want to go to the most popular route and have no issue with accommodation, food, transportation and so on, the French way would be a good option, starting in Sarriá to Santiago. Now, if you want to go for a longer period of time, let's say 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you just need to start farther away from Santiago, which will enable you within this period of 2 weeks or 3 weeks to reach your destination. If you want to go for the whole lot that people have in mind, the Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port to Santiago, Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port to Santiago, you have to count 30-35 days for that. Okay? So that's the main thing to think about. If you want to walk on the road of Le Puy, it would take you 2.5 months to 3 months to reach Santiago. So it's very hard nowadays to get 2.5-3 months off work. Never mind the cost of such a journey. This is why, for the Camino, we have been first tour operator to split the different routes in sections. To make it available for people to go. This year I will do the section 1 and 2, next year I will do section 3 and 4, and so on, so that within 2, 3, 4 years I will complete my whole French way. Now, a couple of things on the various routes. French way would be the most popular. It is very well organized in terms of accommodation, whether it's hostels or hotels. We prefer to use hotels for our clients, and we'll pick the best in each town. So that's one thing. The second most popular route would be the Portuguese way. It is lovely section. It is the same type of landscape, so it is another good option for people wanting to walk the Camino. After that, third might be the northern way, okay, which is a bit more touristic, a bit more expensive, because this is where Spanish people would spend their holidays. So there are little summer resorts, so to speak. And after you've got another route which is quite popular, which is the Finisterre, the end of Earth, which was thought to be the end of the world before we discovered the Americas. Very important as well, featured in the movie The Way, where Martin Sheen basically spread the ashes of his son. So quite symbolical. Now let's talk about the terrain and how difficult the Camino is. The first thing you have to think about is that walking is accessible to everybody, and if you're not the fittest, you can just take more time. That means that you have more breaks, or you shorten your walking days. In terms of terrain, on the French way, there are two main challenges, which would be the crossing of the Pyrenees, passing the Horizon hut there, with over 1,000 meters ascent in the one day. So that makes it pretty challenging. Yet it is not impossible, and by taking your time, within 7 or 8 hours, you can do it. Don't be afraid of 7-8 hours. If you start at 8 o'clock in the morning, walk a couple of hours, have a break for 15 minutes or so, continue for 2 hours, and so on, you should be arriving at your destination by 4 or 5 o'clock. So it is pretty decent. After that, you wind down the bottom of the Pyrenees with lovely areas around section 2 and 3 of the French way, with towns like Pamplona, Logroño, etc. One of the things to think about on the French way would be the Plateau de la Meseta here, where there is very little shade in summer anytime, but particularly in summer when the weather can get a bit hot. So this is something to think about. The second difficulty on the French way would be around the Bierzo Mountains, where you have to climb to Ocebrero, which is a lovely Celtic village at the top of the mountain there. So there again you've got 1,000 meters ascent. So just things to think about. The rest would be quite hilly, then going to Santiago. That's the main gist about the Camino and the French way. The other routes are less traveled, so you can ask me questions online if you have, and I would be happy to describe those. So that's one thing. Now, talking about the weather and when to go, okay, it is a very important question. Obviously, it depends on when do you have time available. What I'm trying to say here, that if you can only go in July, well, go in July. Now, when we are talking about what's the best time to go on the Camino, I would refer to mid-April to mid-June, and then September and the first half of October. This is what many travelers now like to travel. So when you're going on the Camino around these times, you should expect roughly 18-25 degrees temperature. Now, I'm just giving you some big landmarks because we're talking about a huge area here. So obviously the weather vary as well. If you go in July and August, just mind this area here at the center, or areas like the Via del Plata and Portugal. We're further south, so the temperature rises up a lot more than in the north here. So that's it about how to go about it. Now, a couple of hints on how to reach your starting point. If you're starting in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, flying to Biarritz, that's the best option. Biarritz, Bilbao. If you're starting anywhere along here, flying to Bilbao, Santander are good bets as well, because you can easily go across. If you are starting around Santiago, flying to Santiago directly would be the best option. Now, that's it about the description of the routes and the Camino, and I hope this was informative, and we have more information online on followthecamino.com.